Wait, what's that? A transport! I'm saved!
Live? We are live! Hi everybody. I've never done this before. Let's hope I don't screw it up. So, welcome to the Sandcrawler Podcast, your home for Star Wars action figure therapy. My name is Mac, or Mike Tarkin, or Mike McDonald. Pick one. I go by many names. Normally, we do this podcast and it's audio only. And of course, I do it with my good friend and co-host, Dengar Dan Lazat. Dan's at work. He's currently working crazy amount of hours as an emergency worker in Massachusetts. And I wanted to just say hey to him and send some positive force vibes his way during this ridiculousness that is our planet right now. So shout out to anyone else that's working on the front line or on an essential job, including my sister-in-law, Cindy. I'm hoping that this is a bit of distraction from the pandemic and everything that's going on in the world. Behind the camera tonight is, you know her on the show as Mrs. Tarkin. You will not be seeing her. That's why she's behind the camera. All right, so let's take a look at the Star Wars room.
Adam says good day.
Adam. Hi, Adam. How's it going? This is new. Sorry. We'll see how this goes. Shout out to Shebs, who's holding my one cue card for this whole event. Thank you, Shebs. Job well done. Do you want to sneak out now, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Courtney and Jennifer are watching.
Oh, hi.
Mitchell and Dave.
Good. Go on your phone while you're trying to leave the room. Hello.
And
Podcast land.
Mitch says, don't forget the clones are mine.
Right. Don't worry, Mitch. I will. Okay, so here we are at the door. We'll start at the beginning. So this is a print that I got at Motor City Comic Con a bunch of years ago, signed by the artist of my favorite vintage Marvel comic book, Michael Golden. And it's that awesome Riders in the Void comic that came out. It came out, Empire Strikes Back. The adaptation was supposed to come out, but they delayed it a month. They gave us this weird title, and it's the best thing they ever put out in the vintage series back in the day. So that's what that is. This is the door. So anyway, a little bit of history. If you don't listen to the show or you haven't heard me talk about it. So this room started in late fall 2000.
Michael Almada is watching.
Oh, Michael. Hey, bud. Yeah.
Aaron. She says, hey, Mike.
Hi, Aaron.
Greg.
Aaron from work's here, everybody.
Shelby.
All right. So this room became a Star Wars room in late 2000. And so we've mentioned it on the show before, if you don't know. So in our house, we moved in this house in 1994. Moved in with Carrie's mom and Carrie's grandmother. This was actually her grandmother's bedroom. And when she passed away in September of 2000, it became a spare room. So that's how I got a place to start putting all my toys, which back then was not a lot of toys. I was under strict orders. The couch had to stay. The photo albums had to stay. All the knickknacks had to stay. But you'll see in time, we got rid of most of that stuff. So, but I mentioned that about Graham because this is where we still honor her. This is her last name was Griffin, so this is an initial. She made it, I think. Somebody made it for her.
Know.
Anyway, this is Graham behind the TIE Fighter here.
Michael, Ryan, Aaron.
Cool.
Other people, sorry.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Mr. Mac.
So this is whose room we're originally in. So I like to just keep a little tribute to her at all times. All right, so let's go. Where should we start? So this is most of my posters. Now that I'm actually looking around. So I've got Return of the Jedi poster. This is significant because I picked it up. I think it was 1993. Walt Disney World at Star Tours, and in 1993 I wasn't big into Star Wars, and this was that trip was one of those things where it's like, wow, man, Star Wars is really cool again, and that was one of the
Doug's on.
key things that set up. Doug,
Your
Doug,
brother.
my brother. Hi, Doug. Oh, a lot of the stuff you're going to see today belong to my brother. So that's Return of the Jedi poster. Over here, I've got a poster that I love so much. A couple of fun things. This was a lithograph of one of the VHS releases.
And Jen.
Hi, Jen. from Blockbuster. I used to work next door to a Blockbuster, so we got, anytime there were Star Wars freebies to be had, I was able to snag some. So that's what that is. A couple of, well, actually, all 3 prequel posters, which they're not behind the door because I don't like the prequels. I love the prequels, but as you're going to see, I had to make room for other things. So this is kind of like my loft studio art gallery sort of thing. And I've also got what's left over from the VHS set of when the Phantom Menace came out. So thanks to Byway for that.
Dave says, I love how every piece has a story.
Oh, most of them do, Dave. Yeah. All right. So let's begin. Let's begin at the beginning. So this is my vintage Kenner and assorted vintage stuff. And again, I've mentioned this on the show before. As a Star Wars fan, I was 9 in 1977, and by the time Empire Strikes Back came out, I wasn't playing with toys anymore, so I wasn't getting toys for birthday or Christmas. So my original Kenner stuff is pretty much what you see on this top shelf here. So, yes, we have a comment from...
No, Mitch and Noah and Grant are debating which is the best, and then Noah chimes in, holiday special.
So these are, except for one, these are the original 21 figures that my brother and I actually bought on a vacation to Florida back in March break of 78. And all of these are our originals except for, I think 3PO, because our 3PO was just completely trashed at one point. So that's an eBay buy. Everything else is original. They're sitting on the Black Series 40th anniversary displayer that came out. Some other things on here. This is, I think, Doug, I think this was your due back. These are some fun things. So I've got a couple of Lego pieces here, and I've got the paperback adaptation to the original Star Wars. So before the movie came out, kids, and before action figures came out, my brother and I would open that paperback, and it's got photos in the middle of the book. And we actually, those were like our original Star Wars pictures that we had. So using that, we did things like we built a little Lego R2-D2, little Lego TIE Fighter, which just, this was our figures before these things came out.
Brandon wants to know your favorite figure from original line.
From the original line. C-3PO. Because he looks the most, out of all those toys, he looks the most like the actual character. Because he's shiny, they didn't have to fake it. It looks like 3PO. It's awesome. So I'd say he's my favorite. And then as we go down the list here, my only carded Kenner figure, I got this at Celebration Orlando a couple years ago. Didn't pay a lot for it, and it's not in the greatest condition, but that was, 3 years ago, and it was the first time I held a carded Kenner figure that I owned since sitting in the back of our station wagon in 1978. So that's kind of fun. Other things on here, this was one of those things that I didn't know was commonplace till I got onto groups like iGrewUpStarWars.com and things like that. And it was a ceramic R2-D2 bank that actually my buddy Rich Dubois made it when he was in high school. And it was in the back of his closet. He found it one day and he gave it to me. So that's a fun piece.
Greg Armstrong, yeah. Hi Mac, do you have any Burger King glasses?
Burger King glasses, so Carrie, come under the TV here. And there is the full set of Burger King glasses. And I love them very much. We have Lando, and I think the droid's upstairs in the kitchen because, damn the lead poisoning, I want to use some of them. So, those are fun. I love those. What else can we talk about on the vintage shelf here? My original X-Wing fighter. My brother's original Cantina. Trying to think what else. And the original land speeder. So when we bought the original 11 figures, the land speeder, we also got it at the same time. So that's all busted up, but it's fun. We have this is fun. This is the die-cast Star Destroyer. And of all the things you could lose, for some reason, even my son playing with this when he was 3, 40 years on, I still have the blockade runner inside of it. I don't know how he didn't lose it. I don't know how. I lost a gun the other day opening a figure in the chair in the living room. And this thing is still around. So.
Dave says that Leia is supposed to be on the nightstand.
Oh, that's right.
No.
Speaking of ceramics, shout out to Steve Chopchick for finding this for me a couple of months ago. Ceramic Princess Leia. I used to have it light up. I had to take the lights out and do something else. Her eyes light up blue, and this all lights up like gold and yellow. She looks possessed. Carrie Fisher would have loved it. That's the vintage shelf. I got some play sets under here. Picked up a Sandcrawler play set in pretty good shape to replace like what we had as kids. So that's kind of fun. I think that's it for my vintage shelf. Oh, here we go. So the back of the door, this is a quick one. This is basically costumes. Binders I bought at Walt Disney World. My son's Jedi robe. My Jedi robe. Shout out to Shebs. Got it for me for Halloween one year. Shelby's BB-8 partial costume. And just like some more costume pieces. And hidden behind it is one of the few non-Star Wars items in my collection. And it's like a 12 by 12. Obviously, you can see a little poster of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I worked at Music World, Devonshire Mall. Shout out to anybody from Canada remembers Music World. And these were, we threw them in the record bins as advertising, so I snagged one of those. Not much non-Star Wars in this room. Let's see, what else have we got? This is a case of where I'm desperately running out of space, and I found a place to put shelves up. So I've got a little small diorama, including a wall panel from the Rebel Blockade Runner. Thanks to Ryan Robinette for making that for me. Yes, I have some Black Series. You can count them on maybe two hands, but that's about it. The awesome Carbon Freeze Chamber playset from the Power of the Jedi line. This is a lot of fun. We got this at Michigan Comic Con for $10. A guy had it complete, $10. We grabbed it before he knew what he had. So that's fun. Little bit of Force Unleashed figures. I'm sorry, Ralph McQuarrie concept figures. Those are one of my favorites. I'm so glad they ended up putting that series out just because it's historical and it's cool to see them in toy form. And then underneath we've got the Force Unleashed, which that was one of my son Mitch's, I think one of his first sort of like grown-up video games to play, and I loved it. I didn't play a second of it, but I love the cutscenes. I love the figures. So that's a little tribute to that. We've got Sam Witwer's signature, I think, inside of that steelbook there, so that's kind of fun. And then I got the whole thing wired up with some IKEA lights that someday I'm going to cover all those wires up. And down here in this AT-AT, I shoved all the extra wires in there just to kind of hide it. So, okay, so this is when you come into the room, this is sort of the big main wall. Kind of a hodgepodge. It's a little bit of everything. Top shelf, got the Black Series Stormtrooper helmet, and that kind of started a small run on really liking Stormtroopers. So I've hit Rogues Gallery Comics in Windsor. Their loose bin of figures, and picked up a couple for like $10. None of these I don't think I paid full price for. The Biker Scout Black Series is an amazing figure.
Adam says that tie rocks, bro.
Which?
TIE fighter, I guess. The one up there behind your head.
Oh, Vader's tie. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, and I got the large wig one too. Shelby, shout out to Shebs. Shelby found this. They were throwing it out at the daycare she worked at, and she snagged it for me. God bless her. It's so awesome. So that's my Stormtrooper focus. Shout out to Adam Bray. Put out a great book called Stormtroopers Beyond the Armor, which is really cool. Then we go down into the cubbies. These things have been something different as long as, I think I've probably had this up for about 10 years, I want to say. And it changes all the time. It hasn't changed in a couple years, thanks to Dengar Dan's love of Power of the Force, which he kind of passed on to me. I started appreciating it more. And you hear that on the show all the time. So this is my Power of the Force / 90s focus. And we got some awesome Shadows of the Empire figures. Power of the Force figures, including, Monkey Chewbacca, Spirit Ghosts, or the Jedi Spirits, nice R2-D2, super buff Luke. Way at the back we got Monkey Face Leia. It's fine. And then this is stuff I just, the very first modern collectible I ever got. My mother-in-law bought probably at Target or something in a trip to Michigan. It's these safety scissors in the back corner there. And I've never opened them. They're probably from like 1993 or something like that. They got a little Rebel Alliance logo on it. So that's like the first modern collectible that I really ever got. And just some, micro machines. Remember the danglers? I think these came out Phantom Menace era. The idea was you would use a little sticker there and stick them on your computer monitor.
Mark says, this man truly is a Canadian national treasure.
Mark Pearson? Pearson. Hey, Mark, how's it going, buddy? I do my best, eh? Look, I forgot to turn lights on. Knew that was going to happen. All right, so get through this part quick. This has changed a lot. These plastic shelves up here. Right now, it's new stuff I've bought. And that's all I can say about it. I got the new skiff, got the Jabba's Palace, wired in some lights into some of the spots. That's going to end up somehow with my Power of the Force Cantina display. Just haven't worked out the logistics yet. Just picked up Jedi Luke at Walmart in Leamington for $9. 2 Mandalorian figures. This was a giveaway. It's a card of that comic book. It's not the actual comic book. It was a giveaway when that came out. Shout out to Aaron at work for picking that up for me.
Ryan says those IKEA shelves look awesome. Yeah,
they do. I like them. So that's that. We got the TV. What else? This and this are from my good friend Ryan Robinette. Little 3D printing and some painting. We got Mando's gun. We got a thermal detonator.
He mentioned that earlier, but...
Oh, did he?
I didn't know where he saw it.
So, that's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. As long as I'm talking about Ryan, pan up to here, Carrie, up on top. Ryan took one of... Mitchell, this was your Nerf... what do you call it? The Fleet Trooper gun. So Ryan painted that up for you, make it look a little more legit. So there's kind of 2 themes starting at the top. This is where I spend all my time getting headaches, is how to keep things kind of grouped together, and it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. So this is the bad guy area, basically. So I've got obviously Empire related figures up on top there, carded figures. I do have some. I got about 3% of my collection is carded. I got a very cool autograph from a friend of the Sandcrawler, Stephen Stanton, who is the voice of Governor Tarkin and a bunch of other characters. Captain Tarkin, not Governor. He wasn't Governor yet. A bunch of characters from the Clone Wars. He reached out to our show very early on, and he's just a super cool guy, so that's something we got from him. Down on the side is when I get... This is going to change. This is carded figures. I just don't like it. I know people love seeing carded figures because it looks like you're in a store. To me, it's a waste of space. But for now, it's the Empire coming down here, and it kind of transitions into Rebel Alliance stuff, which we'll get to that in a minute. So if we'll come back over here, we've got, at the moment, this is kind of like the Anakin Skywalker shelf, which I just took pieces from to do something else that we'll talk about a little bit later. So that's, the story of Darth Vader, basically. You got the 501st Troopers, you got Ahsoka, you got Ben Kenobi, so, the story of Vader. You go down the shelf, and it's basically the Empire on parade, including one of my favorite figures ever, the Power of the Force 2 Imperial Royal Guard. And if you look, there's a couple of customs that I did. We've got a Luke Skywalker head on a Krennic body. And what else have I got in there? Oh, we got, who's the guy from? Balatik. We put his head on a spare Bodhi Rook figure to give him sort of a buddy, a pilot buddy. And we got some sorted Imperial droids, that kind of thing. Next shelf is sequels and odds and ends. And as I'm taking figures in and out of display and unboxing them up, there's some that I don't have a place for them, but I do want to see them. So I started putting this out. So some favorites that I ended up with. Doug, a lot of these are yours. And then the front part is some of the sequel figures. I have a lot of them. I wasn't all in with the sequel figures, unless they were mainly from Rogue One, but they're sort of the wrap up of the Skywalker saga.
including two of the best figures we got, which is Dio and Zori Bliss, which I just love that figure so much. It's so great. We'll see. Rise of Skywalker came out on home video today, and will we get anything else to go on the shelf? We'll have to see. I don't know.
Brandon wants to know, what stands are you using to tier?
These are those plastic spice racks. I think you can get them at Bed Bath & Beyond. So they're steps. I think that one's got, I think it's 4 steps. It's got black on top. And to fit them in the IKEA shelf, I had to trim off just a little bit of the trim on it, and I was able to fit 2 of them in. So that's what that is there. Now the other ones I've used, these things, do I have an empty one?
Dollarama.
Yeah, they're from the dollar store, Dollarama, and they're clear drawer organizers. This is what they are. You put them in your drawer. They're for your silverware. And what I found is if you tip them over, like I've done here, you can stack them up and basically make different levels, that sort of thing.
Dave says the spice racks of Kessel.
Show title, next show. That's the show title. The Spice Racks of Kessel. So this is my more or less sequels, Aliens, Cantina. So it's the Power of the Force Cantina. And I basically just threw in most of the newer figures. Like you see the dudes from Force Awakens. There's Balatik again. And then again, figures where I just didn't have room for. So we got an extra Bosk. I can't remember that guy's name. He's a Rhodian, but he's like a pod race mechanic or something. I forget. So another Cantina with just different figures from the OT. Couple of customs. We've got a Lando Calrissian and a fetching white cape. That was kind of fun to throw together. Yeah, so that's what I plan on doing with this. I've got helmets up on top here, just from random characters, and at some point this is going to be like a whole environment. There's going to be stuff sticking out of the walls and coming down from the ceiling, sort of like what you might see in Galaxy's Edge or whatever. Shelf. Rogue One, my favorite Star Wars movie. Using the, I still call it the hover tank. I can't remember the name they gave it. It's a hover tank. Plans for this are to do like an actual Jeddah street, and it's going to be such a big deal that I just keep leaving things on here, kind of keep them simplified, kind of made up some of Saw's. You can very easily throw in aliens to make Saw's army. So there's a custom over here, and we've got this Tusken Raider with the black biker scout helmet, which is kind of accurate to the guy you see in the movie. Yeah, not much to say there, except there's a lot of excellent figures from the prequel era, and yeah, I like grouping them together. I've always done that. I've never really done a lot of, except for Clones in Battle, I've never really done a lot of prequel dioramas. So, but lots of great paint apps back then. Amidala was a great figure. Obviously, my favorites here, the Nemoidians, awesome sculpts. We've set a record. My Grievous figure hasn't fallen now for 2 weeks. That's a new record in this room. Just sort of Luke Skywalker's Tatooine. It was a way to group, a bunch of kind of themed figures. So we've got the special edition Dewback with some troopers, and we've got Luke from the cutscene in Return of the Jedi. Luke and Biggs in the back, Aunt and Uncle, the vintage collection Landspeeder, one of the greatest toys ever, the Bantha, which I gave to you, Curtis Thompson, if you're there, and you gave it back to me when you got older. So thank you for that. That's a fun one. I like that one. At some point, there'll be sand, there'll be a better background, that sort of thing. Another one I got to work on is my Scarif Battle. Kind of self-explanatory. It's a good example of why I like super articulated figures as opposed to 5 POA. They just look better in action. Threw in a little tribute to the trailer of the scene we never saw, which is Jin running on the beach with the Death Star plans. So that is that's that whole shelf. So that's like one side of the room. All right, so this starts, if you listen to the show, above all else, I love all things Rebel Alliance. I love X-Wing pilots. If it's an orange jumpsuit, I'm there. So this is where that all starts. Some Rogue One figures on the side. This I got Christmas time. The Black Series Luke Skywalker X-Wing helmet, which is one of the greatest accessories ever made, ever. It's so cool. It's so much fun.
Ryan Stompley
Yes.
says, so cool.
Thanks, Ryan. How's it going? We met Ryan at Celebration. Yeah. Vintage collection Luke Skywalker. Just not sure what to do with him yet. And then this is a wall of Rebel Alliance related actors that we've met over the years. That's Dan and I meeting Mark Hamill at Celebration Orlando, where we didn't know what to say. And we've got Garrick Hagan, who played Biggs Darklighter. Met him in Toronto. Just fabulous guy. We met, I was going to say Lando Williams. Billy D. Williams, Motor City Comic Con. He had his shades on and he was kind of quiet, but he was cool. So that was great to meet him. And Mike Quinn as Nine Numb, who I haven't met in person, but at Celebration, I got to ask a panel that was Mike Quinn, Angus McInnes, Garrick Hagan, and Dennis Lawson about what they thought about seeing themselves as action figures. So I think we got that video up on our YouTube page. So yeah, we also got Angus McInnes, who played Gold Leader in A New Hope. And I'll give you the extremely short version of the story. He's a local boy. He's from Windsor, Ontario. And turned out my mother-in-law was friends with his sister when they were kids. So I have this cool little connection with, as far as I'm concerned, the Rebel Alliance. So
John Firth watching?
Oh, cool. Hey, John. Yeah, John Firth.
Cousin.
Our cousin.
Oh.
Yeah. So, hey, John.
Hey.
Let's see. What else? Okay, so let's maybe go across to the window, and then we'll come down again.
Great pictures,
curtains.
great memories, Michael says.
Oh, thanks. Curtains from a guy I used to work with. These are the vintage Star Wars curtains. Everybody knows about those. Just knickknacks and tchotchkes. Various pins and patches from different cons. Trips to Disney World. Jake Stevens's I'm waiting for Star Wars 7 button, which is great. Same on the other side, just more. This I think is all Celebration Orlando, which is the one and only celebration that I've been to. Just buttons from there. If you've listened to the show, this is the focus that you've heard me talk about to death. My spirit animal, X-Wing pilot Luke Skywalker. And I've tried moving that more than once, and it needs to stay here. I just like it there. I like when I walk into the room that Luke's the first thing I see. And I got kind of the range of, Power of the Force. I've got a Kenner, some of the more modern ones, the Black Series exclusive from Celebration. This was a great find last free comic book day in the box. Was it the 100th figure? The set that had all the accessories and everything. So,
Mark says Mac broke the internet, had to restart phone. And Paul loved the Luke collection.
Oh, awesome. Is that Paul Mandate?
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Paul. That's Paul from London.
Hi, Paul.
Yeah. Autograph from Star Wars Celebration from Dennis Lawson. If you saw my Instagram video, that's the one I picked as if I had to rescue something. It was just a joy to meet him. This is fun. My wife got me this. I don't know if anybody remembers this from the 90s. Luke Skywalker's lightsaber and remote control for the old tube TVs. Did I take the batteries out? I did. I took the batteries out. Has sound effects. Doesn't work on new TVs, though. So if you turn it like this, you can't see the buttons. So here it is. For the next 4 hours, we're going to talk about... This is the Rebel base. This is the thing, more than anything, that I've talked about in the show. So this started out... There used to be Carrie's Hope chest under the window, and I had the Kenner Millennium Falcon and I think a Y-Wing. And that was... what year did that Y-Wing come out? Was that 30th anniversary collection? I don't even remember. But since then, it's just grown and grown and grown. Dave Franzi says Camera Oma is doing good work. So this is the base, and I'm just going to see if I can do this without killing myself. Bring the lights down a little bit. This I finally finished. Posted that on our website. That's my garage, 1 hour lube, control booth, and a home for the big Millennium Falcon where I put some lights underneath it. And this was one of the first dioramas I did, and this one's a lot of fun. So this is, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. You've got Rebels sitting there watching the radar screens. Those are printer ink cartridge boxes, by the way. Took an old iPod, put some graphics on it, so now they're all watching that. And there's a window through here. This was a failed experiment. So there's a window through there which shows you basically, right, the ready room. You can see here the Death Star. I never really actually finished that after I put it there. I have to finish the view screen for it, but it's fun. It's fun. And it is. It's a blast taking pictures of it. It absolutely is. So that is... it's on the bottom. There's a work in progress down here. That's why I've got randomness down there. And someone mentioned the lighting. This is a kit from IKEA. It's LED strips that you stick underneath, and it's got a color wheel that you turn for whatever kind of mood lighting you want. So it's really cool. So, again, it's a work in progress. I should mention, Dan has been bugging me for years, and he's finally kind of happy with me because I'm putting walls up. So I've got some stuff going on here. There's going to be sort of a little booth that I'm going to put in there. But the thing I like about the top shelf here is because it's unfinished. It's like I just come down and on a whim. It's like, you know what? I want this over here now. So I'm not sure where I'm going to put walls because it's pretty cramped. But so yeah, this is, besides my family, my reason for living. That's the Rebel base. So... Alrighty, moving on. Just some artwork here. It's actually the box, the Vintage Collection X-Wing box. I kept the front of it and put it in a frame. This was a puzzle that I want to say, Ska Geek, I think I got it from you, from James, I think. So we put that on some backing and framed it. This was given to me by Justin Morgan, one of our listeners, and awesome for my droid theme. And... of course, the vintage 3PO carry case. All right, so on this side of the room, we've got my Fett family focus, so mostly Boba Fett stuff up here. Mitchell's Slave One ship from Attack of the Clones. If anybody remembers that awesome cereal promotion they had where you bought that giant box that had 2 boxes of cereal and the Clone Trooper helmet on it, that's what that is. I love that. To me, that's old school so much, and I wish they would do something like that again. A couple of autographs. We met Daniel Logan at Toronto Fan Expo one year. And actually, now that I'm thinking of it, our pictures are in an issue of Star Wars Insider from when we met him. And I should dig that up for the show and show you guys. And an autograph from Jeremy Bullock on Boba Fett figure. Next 2 shelves are all about the podcast. This is the Dengar Dan, Mike Tarkin shelf of love for my best friend in Massachusetts, the world. And this is it's things we've gotten for the show. It's things, it's very easy for me to pick up a focus. So when Dan and I kind of took our online names and it kind of we kind of incorporated into the show. Well, of course, I'm going to start collecting Dengar and Tarkin figures. An autograph pop from Dengar Dan. And if you don't know why Dan would have autographed a Funko Pop, check our YouTube page. He was instrumental in getting that figure made. What else have we got here? We got some Celebration swag that we gave away back in Orlando. We've got our original brown socked Jawa cape, which I think it was Dan's mother-in-law, actually sewed about 30 of these for us, so we handed them out around Celebration. We've also got, and again, we've Dengar, Tarkin, we've got Jawas because Sandcrawler, very easy for me to collect. And one really cool thing we got, and again, if you've heard this before, sorry, it's just really cool and I like talking about it. A couple years ago, we were invited to the Hollywood premiere of Funko, the story, or Making Fun, the story of Funko. Sorry, I forgot about it. It was held at the Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. It was amazing. And as far as a collectible, this was a set they gave away to attendants, including an exclusive Freddie Funko Director Pop, which is really cool. Came with a set of pins, which are in a tin here, and a gold coin. So just that's really cool. So this is sort of the show shelf, the Sandcrawler show. Oh, here we go, an exclusive pin from Matt Cardona, aka Zack Ryder. Which, that's the best. I love that. This is the Sandcrawler in universe, featuring the Disney Park Sandcrawler. I have a review of that on our YouTube page. And Jawas I liked even before we started the show, and droids I like, so it's a good combination of two. And this is just like a mishmash of both of those worlds. I have did a little custom job where I've got the eyes of the Power of the Force Jawas that will actually light up with a string of LED lights. So that's that. And if we go down one more shelf, this is my Marvel action figure shelf. So I don't have them all yet, but they're all figures that either were released by Hasbro in the Marvel comic 2-packs, if you remember those back in the day. Some customs until I can find the right ones, and it's just a way to have a spot to put figures that don't quite fit where they should, like Blue Dengar and Monkey Chewbacca, and we got Luminaya, things like that. I like to group them together with some mini comic books, and the Marvel comics were huge to me when I was a kid.
Michael says that Sandcrawler lighting looks nice.
Thank you very much. Looks great in the dark too. We go down. What's the question?
How much does your Manelian Falcon weigh? Eric Poisson wants to know.
Oh, the big
I
one?
didn't see that.
You have to scroll up.
I have no idea. It's pretty heavy. It's probably, what, 10 pounds? 15 pounds, maybe? Mm-hmm. It's heavy. It's big. Yeah, it's substantial. I mentioned I like droids. This is my R2-3PO Focus, which in the 90s, it was a ton of fun because, Star Wars was still kind of new back in the stores. So it was fun to pick up things all over the place. And that's kind of slowed down, actually, now that I'm looking at it. Just because, the focus on, there's more focus on other characters now. But that's R2 and 3PO. Got this part of the room, the podcast desk. Say no more. Little mini focus of Chewbacca with a toque given to me by Darth Taxus. Brought to Orlando by Dennis Keithley, who handed it to me on behalf of Darth Taxus. I love it. The note you wrote is inside the hat, dude. Don't worry, it's still there. We solo Chewied up a bit by taking Mitchell's, what do you call these things? Welding goggles or whatever. He wasn't using them, so I took them. This poster, I can't think of the gentleman's name. I always blank on his name. He does all the amazing dioramas for StarWars.com. He signed these at Celebration. Stephen Hayford. Sorry, I always blank on that name. Signed that at Celebration. I talked to him at Star Wars Celebration, and I told him that, looking at his stuff, he was a bit of an inspiration to him, and I had a picture, too, of my Rebel base from 4 years ago. And he looked at it, he says, that looks really good. He says, now you got to get walls going on it. So ever since then, that was next level for me, and I've since started, really trying to make a big effort to make these things look more realistic. So we can blame Stephen Hayford for that. A combination of Rogue One and Black Series and Disney Elite figures, because I love Rogue One so much. So above the desk, we met Anthony Daniels at Toronto Fan Expo, and my brother Doug took that picture. That's awesome. And I got an autograph from him. So he pointed out to me this picture. I have a set of scripts that were published in the 90s. And at the back of all the scripts are copies of those lobby cards that you used to see in movie theaters. So I asked him to sign that. And it was in the book at the time. And he sat there and looked at it, and he's like, well, this isn't right. It's reversed. You always see it the other way. So how many times has that guy seen that picture that he could point that out? So that was fun meeting him. Another awesome picture of Stephen Stanton.
Michael says Stephen Hayford is amazing.
Yeah, totally. And I blank. His name reminds me of a guy I used to work for, and I always want to go to that name instead of Stephen Hayford. So Stephen Hayford is amazing. Where were we? So we're looking at Stephen Stanton, another picture from Stephen Stanton. So this is awesome. Our good friend of the show and friend of our family, Corey Churko, who is one of the guitarists in a band called Toque, and also he's a guitarist for Shania Twain and Kelly Clarkson.
Canadian band.
Yeah.
And I'm long story short, and what I'll do is at some point I'll post links to some of these because you can hear them better on the podcast. We saw Shania Twain in concert at the Palace of Auburn Hills in Michigan, and on the big cameras that they use, the big screens they use at concerts now, he had on a T-shirt basically with this logo on it. And I kept looking halfway through the show. It's like, okay, that guy's wearing a Rebel Alliance logo. I have to look into this. Sent him an email. Turns out he's a giant Star Wars fan, and he's been a friend ever since. He's been on the show. And what you're looking at here in this frame is he invited us to Shania Twain concert in Detroit 2 years ago now. 2018, yeah. So it'll be 2 years this June. And he took us backstage. Never seen a hockey game at Little Caesars Arena, but we've seen backstage at a rock show, which is awesome. We had awesome seats up front, met the band. Didn't meet Shania herself. It's okay. She's the queen. But Corey's awesome. Love him to death. And he's a big Star Wars fan. Where do we go from here?
Michael says Stephen Stanton is a great guy.
Yeah, Stephen Stanton has a charity. If you go to his website, he will sign autographs and ship them to you, and the profits from that go to charity. And I think he advertises it from time to time, but I think he does it all the time. So if you check out his website, if you want to get cool autographs of the characters he's done or whatever, it goes to charity. So it's he's a great guy that way too. My very small pop collection, which at least 3 or 4 of them came from Dengar Dan. And I don't know. Pops kind of came and went as far as I go. I still like them. Shelby collects a ton of them. But I kind of stopped at that one shelf and really haven't felt the need to expand it much. I'd like to put the solo droids, the solo A Star Wars Story droids eventually in a diorama with the 3 3/4. Got my Black Series Skywalker saber. Come on. See. So continuing on, this is my solo A Star Wars Story focus, including a awesome theater poster.
Doug says, love the saber.
Yeah, man. Quick story about the saber. I had Luke's original saber, and I told Shelby if she bought me, because I got Luke's original saber because this one wasn't out yet in Black Series. And I said to Shelby, if you get it for me for Christmas, you can have my old one. So I have Luke's new saber, my favorite. She's got my old saber, which is very Star Wars, that from father to daughter. So, solo poster, the Spice Rack of Kessel playset. Dave, I'm not ever going to forget that now. So I love this playset. It's so cool. It's so much fun. This is what you heard on our last show, me going on about super articulated figures. We got all these awesome characters. And they can't really do much. But great looking figures. This playset, man, I wish we got them for all the movies because it's a lot of fun. So this is kind of new. This whole shelf. This is a work in progress. Obviously, it's Echo Base, and I've had the plans on doing this for actually a couple of months now. And there's plans for it, and I needed to see the figures on display, so I kind of slapped this together in time to do this video. I plan on having rooms. I might have a second level just to kind of spread things out a bit. I'm working on it. And one of the things I want to add to it, shout out to Ryan Robinette, who made me these 3D printed landing lights, I guess we call them, landing strip lights like you see in Echo Base. And you can put LEDs behind them. They look super cool. I haven't actually used them yet. And this one I'm excited about, but I'm also scared because I got to start with skills I've never done before, and I'm not very good at it. So, but I got lots of time off right now. I'm sure I'll get to it. So this table here is, again, work in progress.
Dave says, when it comes to Star Wars rooms, I think everything is a work in progress. That's the fun.
Exactly. You know what, Dave? And I learned that, especially with the Hoth thing and with this one that I'm working on, where you think, I got it exactly the way I want it, and then you think of something else. So I've kind of... I remember when I started doing the dioramas, it's like, well, I want them permanent so I don't have to redo them. But it turns out like I'm always playing with them. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
This is a work in progress. I'm waiting to build a control room for it. Vehicles take up a ton of room, so you really got to make sure you have room for a lot of this stuff. Power of the Force 2 X-Wing. Dash Rendar's Outrider. Finally got that in a spot that I like. Jake, buddy. Ladies and gentlemen, from Forlom to Zuckus, Jake Stevens has joined us. These are things I'm working on. Some figures that have to go out. Random parts I'm trying to find a home for.
Jake says, I just got here. Can you start over?
Oh, sure, Jake. So the year was 1977.
No, Jake.
Random pieces. This is an IKEA nightlight. That looks very Star Wars. I'm going to dirty that up. Working on... So, going to try to turn these floss containers into some kind of computer terminal. Things like that. So, like I said, work in progress. The bottom of a control room is going to be an old Keurig coffee maker, drip tray.
Michael Nip wants to know what material do you use for the walls?
So those walls are you can find them in craft stores like Hobby Lobby and Michael's. They're, I'm forgetting the name. They're foam bricks. They actually come just like that. If you can tell, they're like what? They're like 2 inches by an inch maybe. And they're made out of foam. You can get them in different colors or you can paint them. Super easy to use. That's all glue gun. That's me like in an afternoon with a glue gun. Super easy to use. You can cut them in half if you need to. You can stack them. You want to just maybe swing around quick and we'll show them how. Michael
says, so cool that everyday stuff can turn into Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah. So there's an example with that wall. You can just keep going. And they hold pretty good. So I love them. I'm trying to think of the name. I'll post a link when I find out. But you can get them at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. And it's ridiculously easy to use. So that's a work in progress.
Brandon says Project Bricks.
Yes, thank you, Brandon. That's exactly what they are. Yeah. All right. Oh, here's a new one. Very old NiCad rechargeable battery is now a thing. We're not sure what it is, but we think it powers the U-Wing.
Shelby says he turns McDonald's sauce cups into Star Wars stuff.
Oh, so there's a guy on YouTube called The Budget Jedi.
Right in front.
Glue this one down. So these are the sweet and sour containers for McDonald's Chicken McNuggets. And I weighed them down a little bit and glued them together. Painted them up. So this shelf here, so the other 3 white shelves you've seen are all from IKEA. They're all identical. When I redid the room, 2 years ago, I think it was now. This one I kept. It was a beat up brown one. We painted it white, and I kept it because it's a lot deeper than the IKEA shelves. So for the more involved dioramas, I like having the extra space. So let's start with, this is obviously the Cantina with another Power of the Force pop-up Cantina diorama, and that's where that extra depth comes in handy. I have to light this one still. That's definitely a work in progress. So yeah, we've got that. And as far as the depth, let's go down one more to Jabba's Palace. This one actually lit up. And that's the Jabba's Palace playset. And I didn't want to destroy this one. I know you can get them pretty easily on eBay, but I'm cheap. So without destroying it, I was able to modify it. Reprinted that's actually in the actual pop-up, and I reprinted it and stuck it on top. So odds and ends. With some foam board, I added some alcoves on the side here. And over on this side, just kind of finished off that one wall. And this is going to be a problem because that vintage collection playset, the Jabba's playset with Haunted Carbonite, I want to add it to this. And my issue with that is I don't want to chop this thing up. So I'm either going to have to break down and buy another one so I have one that's not altered, or I'm going to have to figure something out. But that's another example there of having that extra depth. I really like having it. It gives you some little bit better scale. That's that shelf. What else we got here? So this whole area is pretty much work in progress right now. This one, so I pilfered these figures from my Vader shelf, and I've mentioned a few times now, Rogue One's my favorite Star Wars movie. When it came out, I really wanted to do this, and this is the obviously Luke Skywalker Hoth back to tank that I painted black. And I stuck a crispy Anakin figure in there. So then I thought, well, that's a fairly small display, and if you're going to take up a whole shelf, you want to use a lot of figures. Otherwise, to me, it's like it's wasted space. So what I'm going to end up doing is dividing this shelf into 3 small black cubes, so that I can do the Rogue One thing, Empire Strikes Back, and then Revenge of the Sith, and I'll have them lit. And I'm trying to debate. Chris Letty, how you doing? Trying to debate how many extra figures I want in there. Like, I'm tempted to just put a row of Stormtroopers back there, and I really like the Red Emperor's Guard, so I may just make it a little more artsy fartsy instead of canon. But that's in the works. The other one that's in the works. These 2 rooms are nearly done. This is my secret. I never finish anything down here. So over here we've got the Rancor pit, with a little bit of lighting in it, and that packaging. When we went to Walt Disney World the last time, every coffee mug we bought was like shipped in like just pounds of this brown paper, and I thought it would look good, kind of like as cave walls, and it sort of works. It looks pretty cool. It's certainly cheap to do. So that's that thing. And so what I did, there's another room you're going to see over here. Over here? We'll get to that in a minute. And around the corner, I bet I'm going to knock something over. There's a door here with the Rancor Keeper, kind of staying out of trouble. And if we come this way, that room is attached to, this is really a work in progress, sort of the droid torture room from Return of the Jedi. And apart from having a couple of things that are actually from the scene, like Eve 99, the Gonk torture thing, I've added some extra stuff, some kind of monstrosities like a BB-8 head on an IG-88. This is my homage to that R2 barbecue that we saw in Solo. And I've got some, I swear, the thing I'm most in love with lately are these strings of LED lights, which is what you're seeing all that lighting from. So these things, you get them at your dollar store. You get about, 15 bulbs or so. And I just love adding them to everything. So this droid set down here, the lights start in that R2 there with the fake flames. It kind of goes all the way around and gives it some nice lighting because it's a pretty dark area. So those are both works in progress. I have to get on those at some point. In the very bottom, I don't know what I'm going to do down there yet. That's a big old hole for now. So, if Mitch is still, Chris Moorhead, you're right. If my son Mitch is still here, there you go, bud. There's the Clone Wars. His favorite thing in the whole world. Most of these are my son. So I mentioned at the start when my brother Doug hopped on, I inherited his collection. He had a pretty substantial collection that he graciously gave to me. And that meant a lot of moving around and adding, which I've absolutely loved doing. But the other collection I got is when my son Mitch kind of grew up and didn't want toys in his bedroom anymore. So I have, I think, all of his stuff down here. I insist that he keeps 1 or 2 figures in his room, but that's that. So that's all the clones. Nate, how you doing, buddy? What's up? This is personal stuff, family stuff, and assorted, just kind of pictures over the year. Mitch and I meeting our first celebrity, Richard LaParmente. Listen to the last episode of the Sandcrawler if you want details on that ridiculousness. Shout out to Shebs, my beautiful wife, with R2-D2 at a Tigers game. Mitch and I at the Clone Wars opening day at our theater. Dave Franze. These came from you, bud. Thank you very much. I got this. Was it Justin that gave it to me, or was it Mark? I can't remember, but thank you, either one of you. Luke Skywalker X-Wing from Hallmark. And some more pictures and cards. My brother Doug and I at Toronto Fan Expo. That was a little thing. They had a booth for the Blu-ray release, so they would Photoshop you in the pictures. And my son Mitch and Ryan and Grant as Mandalorians in Toronto, and then awesome picture of my little boy back in the day with the Power of the Jedi figure. So, and if you can stand it, I think we got 2 more things to talk about. So this is this is the Disney area of the room. Starting with a cool poster they gave out at Hollywood Studios during Galactic Nights at Star Wars Celebration. Hello in TV land. One of the greatest vehicles ever produced, the Star Speeder. A lot of Star Tours merch. A lot of Build-A-Droids, obviously. That is a shot glass from Disneyland Paris, right?
Yep, darn.
Right. And let's see what else we got. Yeah, this is all more Star Tours figures. That is the droid that latches onto your window in the Star Tours ride when they discover the spy. And you can't see it on that one, but I believe Shelby's face is glued onto that space iPad. And there's an alternate one, which is Carrie's face. They've both been the spy on Star Tours. I never have. And then we've got some Disney mashup figures and a program from Disney MGM Studios that came out. That's from I think that's 1990. It's the year before the park even opened. And some coasters from Jock Lindsay's at Disney Springs. And there's the rest. Odds and ends. Yeah. So I have many, many vehicles in my collection. Too many to put on a shelf. So I started putting them up on my ceiling. And I don't know if I can shoot this right or not. So just using hooks and fishing line to cradle them. I've got my own OT only space battle going on. Which, I'm sorry, this is just, as a kid, I would have killed to have this, so it's so nice to have it. Recently added Power of the Force 2 X-Wing. And this is a Death Star beach ball, which has been inflated. I don't even know how old that thing is. It's at least 10 years old. Will do, Dave. As soon as they open the border, right? Some Hot Wheels ships to give it some scale. My pride and joys, my vintage collection X-Wings. Tally and her A-Wing. Nice, Doug. That's no beach ball. And, well, folks, I think that's it. So it's been an hour. I'm sorry for going so long. I'd like to wrap this up. If anybody has any other questions, anything I can show you again, comments, whatever. Lando Calrissian collection glass. Thanks, Michael. Both Michaels. It's been a lot of fun. I've been doing this now for 20 years, and I keep finding new things to do. Collecting has changed so much, over the last couple of years. I don't know where it's going to continue, but I'm pretty sure there's enough old stuff out there if there isn't going to be much new stuff back. But someone mentioned a little while ago, am I getting the K2 vintage collection figure? And it's like, damn straight, because Rogue One was my favorite movie with my favorite cast of characters, and I can't wait. It's going to be fun. There's always, you guys have said it more than once, there's always something to be done in the Star Wars room. So I think we'll wrap it up. Never done this before, so I hope it wasn't too boring for you. How about dusting, Brandon? Yeah, no. There. See? Clean. I don't dust that often, actually, because I move things around enough that everything gets touched, so it stays generally clean. Not all the time, but generally. So, but I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks for joining me. We will throw this up on the Sandcrawler YouTube page, and we'll repost it here on Facebook with all kinds of links. So thanks for coming out, and may the Force be with you. For more fun action figure videos, subscribe to the Sandcrawler YouTube page below, and be sure to check out the home of action figure therapy, thesandcrawler.net.